I am getting over the tail end of a cold, and so I'm going to spend most of my night muted. And if I trigger the camera off, it's because I'm having a coughing fit. And believe me, you don't want to see me having a coughing fit. So, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes. President Rice,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Navarro Jr.,
Present.
Reverend Davis Jr.,
Here.
and Ms. Villanueva.
She is excused tonight. She had a work conflict and couldn't join us. So we also have a special guest tonight who will lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance. I don't see an administrator from Davis.
I'm having a hard time admitting Representative Corey. So if we could just hold on 1 minute so
Okay,
I could get
that's
there.
fine.
I think we got him in here. Thank you. And Superintendent Green's going to have the honor of introducing
Excellent.
her as soon as we see if Representative Corey is able to see us. Oh,
I just joined.
excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful. Representative Corey, are we going to be able to see you, or are we just going to have audio tonight?
You can see me for a little bit. There, oh, I guess it's using the wrong camera.
There you go.
I got in a pretty bad car wreck last week, so my doctor wants to limit my screen time. So I will be listening most of the time, trying to follow the rules so I don't get in trouble with my wife.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Well, we're glad to have you with us as well, Representative Moosbrucker and also Senator King. It is truly an honor to present the reason for our being, and that is our students. And so to have Cleopatra Kupelis tonight is a special honor. She is a senior at AC Davis High School. She has been instrumental over the last year in establishing and creating our equity policy, but establishing as well our Superintendent Student Advisory Council, of which she is one of the founding members. She now helps lead a group of over 120 students that have been involved in giving more student voice to our district. So I think one of the great celebrations of what we've seen during the pandemic is that it has brought greater access to reaching out to students and giving them even a greater voice. Rather than having one or two representatives on the school board, we have 120 plus that we can tap for different projects and input and insight. So without further ado, Cleo, we've invited you here today to one, honor you and the hard work that you've done over the last year, but if you would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure. Thank you so much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cleo. It's always a treat when we get to see you, even if it's virtual.
Yes, it's always great to see you all as well. Thank you so much for having me here today.
You're very welcome. I'm wondering if any board members have anything that they'd like to say to Cleo this evening.
Cleo, this is Reverend Davis. You know, you're doing great work. I'm so proud of you, and I'm looking forward to what the next 5 years is going to bring to you. And I know you're going to do some great things. And thank you for all you've done for the Yakima School District and your peers by serving on the Student Advisory Board. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Cleo, good to see you again. Just want to thank you for your leadership, for spending your time with us this evening. Just wanted to say thank you for your work in the area of equity and inclusion. When you graduate, I know that you'll leave a big legacy, and the district will be much better for it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for just honestly having the support for Student Voice and giving opportunities like these. I think it's because of your support and everyone else's that I'm here today. So thank you so much.
Norm?
I'd just like to ditto my colleagues and thank you again for being here. And as a proud Davis graduate myself, I am pleased to see one of my fellow pirates continuing to keep the ship moving.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Walker.
Cleo, I know that you probably have other things pulling at you tonight, but if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to. And but if you have to leave, we completely understand. Thanks again for being here. You are a shining star amongst our student body, and we very much appreciate everything that you've done to support the district and to bring student voice into our process. I'm hopeful that I know that we will see you in June at graduation, and hopefully it will be an in-person graduation. That would be wonderful. So anyway, if there's anything you need, Cleo, be sure to let us know, okay?
For sure. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your evening.
See you later.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is our land acknowledgement, and Raymond Navarro will read that for us this evening.
Yes, thank you, Martha. It's my honor and privilege to read the Yakima School District Land Acknowledgement Statement. Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on ancestral lands of the 14 Confederate tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation. The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties. Today, we honor those Native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture. We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today. We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. And acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect and a step towards correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous people's history and culture. It also honors the truth. As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Next on our agenda, but first, well, before we move on to the agenda, I would like to have our legislators introduce themselves. I think everybody in the room knows everybody else, but just in case, and for the purposes of our live streaming, I'd like you all to introduce yourselves and share with us anything that you'd like to share before we get into the agenda. Senator King, do you want to start?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thank you, Martha. Curtis King, State Senator from the 14th Legislative District. Obviously, that includes a large part of Yakima, but it runs down to the Columbia River, all of Klickitat County, all of Skamania, and a little bit of Clark. That all is subject to change over the next few weeks and months. We hope that's decided soon. I have been on the Transportation Committee and the ranking member on Labor, Commerce, and Tribal Affairs. And as always, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Senator King. Representative Mossbrooker.
Thank you very much, Martha. I hope you're feeling better. It's an honor to be here tonight. Very appreciative of the invitation to join you and to hear what you're hoping that we work on, and anything we can share with you, we'll be happy to do that as well. State Representative, 14th District, you just heard the boundaries currently. And again, we're not sure what's going to happen in very near future to those boundaries. And I am ranking member on public safety for the state of Washington on the House side. Also, I serve on capital budget and assistant ranking member on labor and workplace standards. So it's an honor to be here. I'm deputy caucus chair for the Republican Party on our side and the House side. And just again, it's an honor to be here and look forward to hearing your legislative agenda.
Thank you.
All right, I think I'll wrap it up. State Representative Chris Corey, 14th Legislative District. Know most of you here, but for those of you who I have not met yet, either in person due to the pandemic, it's good to see you. I'm on appropriations, community and economic development, in-house leadership, and I'm also on business and consumer protection. So happy to be here and listen to what you guys have going on as we get ready for the 2022 legislative session.
Thank you, Representative Corey, and I'm sorry that you're recovering from a traffic accident.
That's all right. This is a good reminder to people, especially our youth. Don't be on your cell phones while you're driving. Somebody wasn't paying attention and hit me at about 50 miles an hour. So,
Oh, no.
thank goodness for safety features.
And seatbelts.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we'll move to our agenda. First item on our agenda tonight are district highlights. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rice, and yeah, my best to you as well, Representative Corey. That's a good reminder, and I'm so glad that you came out in one piece. And sharing the work that has happened over the last year plus, I'm in deep gratitude to the team that you see in front of you. This is comprised of our superintendent team and our executive director of finance, who's here with us as well. Without them and without the leadership of our school board and the work that you do as legislators, we would not be able to accomplish many of the things that we were able to realize over the last few years. I've asked Deputy Superintendent Rob Darling to share some items as well, but I will start out sharing celebrations of what is happening in the Yakima School District and would entertain any deeper questions if you have those after I conclude. The first thing that I would share is that our graduation rate has continued to rise. We saw a 7.6% increase in the graduation rate. We are now over 80%, which according to what we've been able to determine, it hasn't been that high in quite a long time, if ever. So we continue to see graduates realize their goal of moving on after their experience in high school. You may already be aware of the free internet connectivity that we were able to put in place during the pandemic. So that serves our students within the boundaries. It has continued to grow and expand and get closer to full realization within the boundaries. And once that is entirely in place, we know that we will have every student who will have access from any place within boundaries. And the way that we're doing that is extending the internet feed from our own buildings and relaying that out across our district. So we are not in the dire straits around connectivity the way that we see other areas. And we realize that that does happen out more so in the outskirts of our own central Washington area. Regarding things that are happening in the schools, arts, for example, continues to flourish. We've had two of the last 2 years, we've had state winners in arts. So we see a great, it's not just all about academics, but it's the whole child. And arts is a huge part of that. Our partnerships have continued to grow. We have a partnership with the U.S. Soccer Foundation and also the Rave Foundation, which is the foundational branch of the Seattle Sounders, and have put in place 2 mini pitch fields, small fields for students and community at 2 of our elementaries, with a third to be realized at the end of this year. And those partnerships have been tremendous in creating spaces not only for students, but for community. In celebrating some of the creativity during the pandemic, Anthony Murrieta is here with us tonight. You may see his name. He is our assistant superintendent of HR. And because of his work and his creativity and collaborative approach, we were able to maintain every position in the district during the pandemic. So we did not have to release anyone, including our bus drivers, and buses were not running during the pandemic. So you may ask, well, how did you keep people employed? And again, the creativity of Anthony Murrieta and his team allowed our bus drivers to work in different bargaining units and to do cleaning and maintenance and other operations that kept them employed and kept them part of our YSD family. So kudos to that as well. The Yakima Nation, we started with an acknowledgement, a land acknowledgement this evening, and that is not something that we take lightly. We have committed as a district to build upon our relationship with the Yakima Nation. I now meet every other month with the tribal chair and one of his close associates. And we have been able to realize not only the land acknowledgement in conjunction with the Yakima Nation, a proclamation recognizing the tribe. We also recognize the tribal sovereignty and fly the Yakima Nation flag at our central office and at our Yakima Stadium, our facility for athletics, which is building a strong relationship with the Yakima Nation that has now led to access to salmon hatchery and all of the wonderful opportunities that come with seeing what our Yakima Nation is doing and the way that they interact with the environment and wildlife and science. And that partnership is currently in place with Eisenhower High School. And we provide actually supports for their staff. You may know that the Yakima Tribal School only has one teacher per grade. So they now connect with our teachers at Eisenhower to engage in professional learning so that they can continue to grow in their own development and create opportunities for students. Other opportunities have been around the deferred maintenance projects that we've had, and during the pandemic and in part due to some of the ESSER relief funding, we've been able to do upgrades and make sure that we are being responsible and taking care of the facilities that we do have. And we know that this is a very challenging place to pass a bond. So we have some buildings that are very, very old, antiquated, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to maintain our facilities until the time where we're able to pass a bond in hopefully the not so near future. And then the last item before I pass it to Rob would be one that is on the cusp of being realized, and that would actually be a health center that is separate from our schools, that is actually in the community, that can serve our students after hours and at all times of the day. And Stacy, you may want to add a little bit to this. If not now, just signal me and I can buy some more time for you. But it has been a great brainchild of Stacy and her team. As you know, during the pandemic, we were exposed to the deficiencies that we had around counseling, around supports in the social emotional area and mental health. And as a part of that, we have invested our ESSER funding to create a community area where people have access. And Stacy, I don't know if you want to unmute and talk a little bit about that facility and the excitement that has been generated around that opportunity.
Yes, I can. I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but I'd be happy to interject now. We did a presentation in our COVID response team in working with COVID for the last year and a half or so. Found out that we really were not, there were many barriers to our students and our families, and we could not provide equitable services in the area of healthcare. So we came up with what we call the YSD Health Cooperative. It is connected care, which is comprehensive case management support for students, staff, and families. And it's cooperative care, where strategies and collaboration, relationships with community partners and service providers will guide us in the work that we do with our families. It aligns with three pillar priorities. One is mental health care. The other is primary care. And the third being specialty care. And so as we open this facility and we design its development and move forward, we are again hiring staff to support us as well as connecting with within our community. And so we're very excited. We believe it's going to reduce barriers to care, and the location of this facility could not be better. And we're just looking for everything to close up and start getting together and rocking and rolling. So very exciting time.
Wonderful. I'll now pass it over to Deputy Superintendent Rob Darling. If Dr. Darling, would you share some more of the great things that are happening in the Yakima School District?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Green, and good evening, representatives. So a few other celebrations we have from last year and some of them have even bled into this year. Last year when we went remote, we initiated a fully online K-5 opportunity for students. Previously, the district had only offered a 6 through 12 online option. So last year when we went remote, many of our students met online with their teachers during the week, but many of our students wanted the flexibility to work at a faster or at a different pace. And so we extended that opportunity for all of our K through 12th graders. And last year we served over 300 students K through 5 online. Even when we pivoted back to in-person learning, most of them stayed online. And this year we continued with over 220 or so K through 5 students who are still online, and we'll continue to offer that option because it's been great for those families. It's worked out really well for those families, and we want to continue to make sure we're reaching families and students where they are. One of the celebrations we have from last year, and this has a lot to do with the work that Assistant Superintendent Locke has done, is we did not close one single general education classroom last year due to COVID. We had a couple of self-contained special ed classrooms that we were forced to shut down because of exposures and quarantining and such, but we were able to keep every grade level, every classroom. In fact, it wasn't until just today that we closed our first general education classroom due to COVID exposure. And so we were able to keep it. So I know that that's attributed to the safety protocols and the guidelines that the district had in place, thanks to Superintendent Locke's guidance. And obviously the work that the nursing staff and teachers have been doing to help support that work. Another success is last year and moving into this year, we've had to deliver meals basically on wheels to students, either bringing it to them or having them come do a pickup outside, social distancing and what have you. And we delivered 3,089,615 meals remotely. Means we've handed those meals to somebody as they were driving by or they walked up and took a grab and go bag. That's 3,089,000 meals. It's a pretty staggering number. And the work that goes in to transform a situation where kids walk up to your table in the lunchroom and you hand them a tray and they take it and scoop and go, to all of a sudden being able to pivot and the operations that has to happen behind that is a pretty amazing situation that happened. One of our goals in the district is for students to become bilingual, biliterate by graduation. And this is a long-range goal, but we still, despite being in COVID and being in forced remote learning, we still wanted to maintain and work towards our goal. And one of them is increasing our number of students who graduate with the seal of biliteracy from graduation. The seal of biliteracy is they take a test to assess their language capabilities in a second language. And in doing so, they can earn between 1 and 4 high school elective credits. So many of our students in middle school, having taken the seal of biliteracy, they can enter high school with already 4 elective credits under their belt. Last year, we had 219 students take the seal of earn seal of biliteracy credits, even though it was completely a remote test last year. So that was a pretty staggering accomplishment for us. And we did it in 7 different languages: Spanish, French, Japanese, Italian, Portuguese, Korean, and Arabic. Another opportunity that I'm really excited about, and the work started last year and the planning is happening this year, is we received a grant from OSPI in a partnership with Yakima Nation to begin offering Ichishkian language courses here in Yakima School District. This is the tribal language of the Yakima Nation. This year is a planning year, but even though it's just a planning year, we will be offering an after-school program for students to start learning those skills, with the intention of next year offering high school credit-bearing language courses in Ichishkin, the Yakima Tribal Nation language. We're really excited about that opportunity and that partnership with the Yakima Nation. And I think lastly, one of the areas I'd like to highlight is that one of the opportunities we had last year is we began to offer a 24-hour online tutoring service for all of our students, grades 5th through 12th. And we did quite a bit of research to determine which program could we offer that was in both languages, equally in Spanish and English, but also was able to work well with our learning management platform, because we're a Google district, but also provided a safety security system for students where we did not have to worry about students being on a screen or with somebody who's a stranger, essentially. And so after a lot of research, we found an organization called Paper.co, which is a Google-owned company, and we partnered with them last year. So students at any time of day, 24 hours a day in English or Spanish, can access a tutor from Paper.co. And if they can go into their classroom schedule. If they have AP Algebra, they can click on AP Algebra and they can pull up a tutor specifically for AP Algebra in English and Spanish. So right now, we currently have 25% of our high school students taking advantage of this work, 10% of our middle school students, and so we're working to increase those numbers. Just this month alone, we had 150 students submit essays for review through this company as well. And so it's not only is it a great resource for our students and their families, but it also helps some of the taxing weight that lifted some of that burden off the shoulders of our teachers, who are working their hindies off. We want to do everything we can to support them and give them some reprieve and give them more tools to lean on so they can get through this challenging time of still having to deal with COVID in classrooms and students being in quarantine and that type of thing. So we could probably go on for several more hours, and the more I go, the faster I talk. But as you can tell, we're excited about the work happening in our district. We're proud of our staff and the work they're doing. Most importantly, we're super proud of our students and our families and their sacrifices and their grit that they continue to show us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Darling. And I think the main takeaway is that during a reactionary time, we were able to maintain a large amount of proactivity and address the needs of our community in a way that I believe will be sustainable in many of the areas. Before I move on to our next topic or pass it back to President Rice, are there any questions that you have of us about any of these celebrations or anything else that we could respond to before moving into our legislative priorities?
I have a comment, not a question, if I may. So this is amazing, and this is hopefully what other schools are doing, and it sounds like you're probably a model on some of these programs. It's so great that you found the gaps. I think, in a crisis, we learn what we can't see. We don't know what we don't know. So it's so great that you were able to fix the things that we didn't even know were broken. And I'm just in awe. So thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I will pass it back to you, President Rice.
Thank you, Superintendent Green. Because I am vocally challenged this evening, I've asked staff to help us out with the 3 legislative priorities that we have established for our district. The first one being full funding of special ed. The second one being adjustments to regionalization and experience factors. And the third one being update prototypical school model ratios to meet student needs for safety, increasing their mental health, social and emotional and behavioral health. All of those are pretty big lifts, and I completely appreciate that you all have more than just us to deal with in the upcoming session, but hopefully we can share some information with you on each of these topics that will help you understand why they are a priority for us. Superintendent Green, could I call on you to lead this section, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, President Rice. And I know that you are under the weather, and it's another testament to the importance of being here. So thank you. I will pass the first section over to Dr. Darling to talk about fully funding special education. Dr. Darling.
Thank you, Superintendent Green. So it's not a coincidence that we have this at the top. This is continues to be a big struggle for school districts where our BEA funds don't match the needs of our students with disabilities. our school district, we pay between $4 and $5 million over what we're allocated for our budget on serving our special education students. And there are lots of reasons for this. One of the reasons is the uniqueness of the Yakima School District in that we are sort of landlocked, where we are the biggest area, and we don't have a lot of big metropolitan areas around us to borrow services from. So we have a limited number of services in Yakima City that can help us support our students with special needs. So we have to create those services ourselves. In districts over in the Seattle area and the Spokane area, they can rely on a lot of community partnerships to help partner and contract with those services. But we have to pull, as I said, we have to serve those independently, which is an extra strain on us for resources, an extra strain on us for manpower. Also, we tend to hire every single person in this area who even whispers the word special education, because we are really strapped for getting staffing in our area. We have, I believe right now we have about 12 or 14 speech language pathologists that are working from around the country. They're virtual speech language pathologists working for us. So we have lots of contracts of that nature, just due to the mere fact that we can't find any bodies in the area. And there's an additional cost oftentimes at hiring those services. But not only that, because we are the biggest district in our area, many of the surrounding districts rely on us to help provide services for their high need students who might only have 1 or 2 students who have that special need in their whole district. So rather than them create a program for those students, they contract with us and those students come to us. So we have a deaf ed program. We have many programs such of that nature that we are also supporting the districts around us. So not only is it taxing because it's underfunded, but also because of the geographic situation that we face ourselves in. So I hope that when you go back and speak with your peers back in the legislature, please let them know that we can much better serve our students if we can increase our ability, our financial ability to do so.
Senator King.
Thank you. I'm curious, how many special ed students would you say you have in the school district?
We have, I just pulled that up, just 1 second. We have about 1,500 students right now. About 15% of our student, or 14% of our student population qualify as students with disabilities. Now, some of them might be students that are just speech services only.
Yeah.
That's a completely different number, and but overall, it's 14% of our student population. We have a little bit under 16,000 students.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
I have some comments to make, if I may.
Please.
Yes, I just want to let our legislators know that this really is an equity issue, if you look at it from that perspective. So it's really, there's some opportunity gaps. And so I just wanted to share some stats. These are from the state, not from the Yakima School District. So in terms of opportunity gaps, so 150%, or excuse me, students that are in special education are 150% more apt to be expelled from school and are involved in disciplinary actions as a result of the funding. Also, across the state, 58% are graduating or earning their diploma, which increases that gap, right? And also 34% are dropping out currently. And that's the state. So I just wanted to say that's more of a moral impairment, a commitment, or it's important that we provide for the needs for students with special needs, just like we do for those students in general education. So, and as our superintendent, Dr. Darling mentioned, we get a lot of families that come to Yakima because of the special education services. With the students who are on the spectrum, especially, I see a lot of families coming to Yakima because the services are pretty good. So I just wanted to make mention of that opportunity gap, and that this really is an equity issue. Thank you.
Senator King.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Raymond, for those numbers. I'm curious if you're using 4 to 5 million of I would say local money wherever you get it. What kind of dollar amount is the state actually providing you in totality for special ed? I'm just curious.
So are you talking about what we also consider with just the student allocation?
Yeah, the state would provide you funding for special education students. What is the approximate total of that amount? And then you're telling me that, and I'm not, this isn't an argument, I'm just trying to gather the information, that you're $4 to $5 million short of what you actually need. So I'm curious, what is the total that we give to you now?
That's a good question. Becky, are you able to help me with that one?
Well, Senator King, the formula is 13.5%, and that it's capped. So
Okay.
anything above that, the district has to find the funds. So there's no supplemental funds. Washington State is one of the districts one of the states that doesn't provide for that, any supplemental funds beyond the 13.5, and it's up to the districts to come up with that.
Okay. So 13.5% of your total allocation from the state for the school district would go to special ed. Is that what you're saying, or am I?
What I'm saying is that they'll fund up to 13.5%. So if we have 15, I think Dr. Darling mentioned 15 something, then whatever the difference is, the state doesn't cover the costs associated with providing them with services.
Well, and I understand, because you could have students that you could have an inordinate amount of students that require a lot of care and a lot of expense to meet their needs, where other districts may not have nearly that many, and the students are more along the lines of having to work with language requirements and those kinds of things. So I get it. So all right, that's very helpful. Thank you.
So to answer your question, we got $22.8 million. We received $22.8 million last year for special education services
Okay.
for our students.
Perfect.
And Becky, does that include their general ed FTE?
Yes.
Okay, so that includes
That's
their $7,500 or whatever it is roughly for us for each student.
Yeah, I understand. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Raymond.
Any other questions? Representative Mossbrucker.
You're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So how many of your students remained online when they were able to go back to school? Did you see a high or a low number on that? And how many of those online students participate in sports right now? Or a percent would be easier probably to calculate.
We had roughly almost 1,000 students who normally weren't online during the school year, continue online when we move back to in-person learning. And that number might be a little bit higher, but between 1,000 and 1,500 students who in the previous year had not been online, who elected to continue. As far as how many participated in sports, I don't have that. I don't think we've ever looked at it that way, because we consider them as though they were in a classroom setting, and so they continue to do. So I would have to dive into that to get that information for you.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Representative Corey.
King.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Senator King?
So following along with Gina's question, how do you find, I mean, I'm assuming that there are tests that these online students have to take, and how do you find the results of their tests compared to those that are actually present in the classroom? Have you looked at that statistic?
We haven't looked at the statistic, but it's really easy. That would be easy for us to find. Our online students they have a Yakima School District teacher, but they also have an online curriculum and program that lets them work at their own pace. And the teacher's job is to check in with them, provide office hours where they can support students if they're falling behind, and that type of thing. And so I don't have as far as grading and such goes, I don't have that information in front of me, but that's something we could easily send to you.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before we move on? I think Trevor is having connection issues. Rob,
Yeah.
could you tackle the next one? Adjust regionalization and experience factors.
And he actually just rejoined.
Oh,
All right.
good.
Well, Rob, stand at the ready, because who knows right now. So I appreciate having a good team surrounding me. So hopefully it looks like my battery's running low, but we'll get it taken care of. The second one was adjusting regionalization and experience factors. And Senator King, I know that you and I have had conversations about this, so I don't think that this would be surprising to you or either of our representatives. Regionalization and experience factors continue to widen the gap for districts. I don't think it was intended to do that, but for districts in poverty, high poverty, and decreasing tax bases, the result has been quite a challenge and has expanded the gap between those who have and those who have not. So without calling out a district by name, there's one to the west of us that receives regionalization. And when we have, we're so close in proximity, and you have a district that has a very different demographic than we have, and less students in poverty than we have, and there's a 6% increase that they get above what we get, then we saw an instantaneous impact in teachers going to a district that can pay a little more, administrators leaving, and we know that nothing impacts students like a high quality teacher in the classroom, and nothing impacts the school like a high quality principal. You can have a good school with a decent principal, but you'll never have a great school without a high quality principal. And those are impacts that we saw due to the regionalization, and then similarly, the experience factors, the additional funding only assists 1/5 of the state school districts because of the limited calculations, and the calculation application of both factors we would advocate needs to be evaluated and adjusted. And hopefully we're not alone. I know we're not alone in having this as a priority for districts, but we hope that you hear the impact of what experience factors, but especially regionalization, has on districts, especially in close proximity to those that receive the additional funding. I will share with you that we totally recognize that in the time of ESSER funding, that we are a beneficiary of ESSER money coming to us, and we recognize that is also limited. What is nice about the ESSER funding currently is that comes to the districts that have a high level of Title I students or students in poverty. I do not know how regionalization was determined for the districts that did receive that. With that, I'll entertain a question from Senator Curtis. Senator Curtis King.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. You and I have talked about this, and I'm in the same boat you are. I have no idea how, well, I've been told what it was supposed to have been done, and why we have this regionalization and experience factors, but somewhere between what was supposed to be accomplished and the implementation, I think it went south, in my opinion, because there's been a lot of school districts that have received extra money that, in my opinion, could have gone to a better use in other school districts. I'll leave it at that and not mention the school to the west of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Martha, can you hear me? Okay, good. No more questions?
I don't see any. Okay, and then the last item is review and update of the prototypical school funding model. We know that the prototypical school funding model was created in 2010, I think, and has only been tinkered with around the edges. And I think we've had conversations previously that indicate how out of whack the ratios are when you've got, you know, a ratio for a school psychologist of 1 to every, I don't know, 80,000 middle school students. I'm not even sure there are 80,000 middle school students in the entire state. But clearly this needs a lot of work. And I don't know, Trevor, is it you or Rob that will take this one?
I'll take part of this, and then I would ask Stacy to give her her opinion about the supports that we need for our students around executive functioning, emotional regulation, and socialization skills. But some of the numbers I have around the prototypical funding model, which is, as was shared, very far out of whack. Students currently at the elementary, the state funds 0.493 of an FTE for a counselor, and a little bit more for middle school and more so for high school. But the numbers that we come up with is to fully fund a school counselor at the elementary level, you would need 811 students to fully fund in the current formula. 811 elementary students per one counselor is how it's funded. If you wanted one nurse, if you needed one nurse at the elementary level, you would need to have 5,263 elementary students to fully fund one nurse. If you are fully funding one psychologist under the current model for a middle school, one school psychologist for a middle school, you would need a school with 216,000 students to fully fund that psychologist. And the numbers are staggering in other areas as well. Student and school safety, the way that it's allocated, you're talking around 5,000 elementary students, 4,000 middle, and 4,000 high school to have the safety and security person. Social workers, 72,000 to fund a middle school, a social worker, 40,000 to fund a high school social worker. So those numbers you can see when we talk about fully funding, we're using an antiquated model that does not take into account the actual funding necessary to have somebody come into your system. And so it is not fully funding, it is partial funding, and it is subpar funding. And to address the current needs that we have, we would have to change that funding model to truly have a model that does fully fund education. I'll now turn it over to Stacy. And Stacy, I know you can provide some perspective around students struggling with issues that are out there affecting them, especially during the pandemic: mental health, social emotional regulation, executive functioning. Stacy.
Thank you, Superintendent Green. I see that Representative Corey has raised his hand. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, and just a question on this, and Stacy or Trevor, whoever wants to answer it. I thought either last year or the year prior, we had added some additional funding between nurses and counselors. Did that have any impact on the school district? I know there were separate bills outside of the prototypical school model to address that. Any changes from your end?
Yes, that did make a difference. We made it as a district to go above and beyond So that did support us as well in that endeavor. And we also then went beyond that and added many more counselors, which is very beneficial. But the answer is yes, that did help.
Okay, thanks. Just making sure.
So again, good evening, everyone. I'd like to just kind of speak as to where, I'm sorry, Representative Fussbrucker, did you have a question?
Oh, I was going to ask Trevor if he's still on. I think he's off again. If we can get a copy of the ratios that he just quoted about how many it would take to get one nurse or one, if you could send that to us, I'd love to have that.
Absolutely. I will send that first thing in the morning, and I'll put the page number that you can see that on. This is actually coming to us from a work group. It's about an 85-page document that was put together through the work of OSPI in conjunction with numerous other organizations. And it's entitled Staffing Enrichment Work Group Recommendations. It was a report to the legislature, a 2019 report. But
Great.
I
Send me the link. That would be great.
Yeah.
That's staggering.
So it became crystal clear to us at the beginning of this pandemic that if we were going to be successful in meeting the needs of our students, that we really needed to change the way we were doing business related to COVID. When it comes to the safety of all our students and our families, the health services team was not, there just weren't enough people in place to be able to really handle what was happening to us across our community. And so we made a concerted effort to hire and retain some of the best people and the thinking around how we would go about providing that safety and that security support for students, not only during the pandemic and as we came back part-time through rotations, and then additionally as we rolled into full-time in person this fall. As a result of being able to hire additional nurses and health assistants, and through the development of the concept of our Yakima School District Health Co-op, I just wanted to let you know that when I talk about our three priorities, we talk about mental health, which we consider on-site certified counselors and therapists to provide tier 3 support, intervention support through our PBIS work and our MTSS work. We look at primary care as referrals and on-site partnership services such as immunizations, health screenings, etc. And then the specialty care would be referrals to specialized care facilities along with guidance if there are transportation or cost barriers. And so it came to light in this pandemic is if we really wanted to meet the needs of our community, we needed to step up to the plate because students who have health conditions are not ready to learn, and we needed our students prepared and healthy in order to attend school and to connect with academic learning. The other thing I wanted to share with you is we became last May, became part of the Yakima Police Department Domestic Violence Coalition. And I don't know if you're aware, but in the city of Yakima, one might think that gang violence is number one, but it's not. It's domestic violence. And we have statistics through our Gaggle alert system that showed us that for all of 2021, we received 37 referrals when it came to domestic violence with our students. Already, as we initiated this program this September, with even our pilot schools, not all of our schools came on in October, we have already received over 100 referrals for domestic violence where our students were either the victim of domestic violence or they witnessed domestic violence. And we know how that will impact a child in the school setting when they come to school. So when we look at this legislation where we're going to look at more counselors, more social workers, more psychologists, more nurses around that mental health and behavioral support, that is absolutely key to keeping our kids in school and academically ready to learn and participate. The other thing I'd like to share with you is where suicide and self-harm has risen over the last year and a half. Just to date, I'm just going to use from September through the middle of November here for the last 10 weeks, we have had over 113 reports of students attempting to harm themselves or wanting or threatening to commit suicide. I cannot emphasize the stress and the mental health issues that our students have undergone. Tremendous impact through this pandemic where they were at home, not in person, and then learning how to come back to school and play school has been significant, especially at our elementary. We track through our Gaggle work. We have over 300 to 400 alerts a month. And those areas that we're looking at is suicide, self-harm, violence to others, bullying and harassment, nudity, inappropriate behavior, drugs, alcohol, gang activity, sexual assault, possible student situation, which is the abuse, and student death. And so in tracking and working with those statistics, it is imperative that we get the extra funding to support, to hire these particular positions to support our students in the classroom setting. And I could talk about this forever. It's obviously a passion of mine. I'm so dang excited about our health cooperative and what that means to our students and community. And it will serve as a model in the state of Washington to serve underrepresented students and community members. Are there any questions I could answer? Or Senator King?
Well, thank you. I just want to reiterate, or not reiterate, but agree with you. I am very concerned about one, the mental health of our children coming back into the classroom, because I can tell you that every opportunity where I've gotten to listen to a school district or a school, particularly elementary schools, this is the problem. You have young people now that won't pay attention. They don't mind. They haven't learned. They got to relearn how to play with others because they've been at home for a year and a quarter, and they haven't had that opportunity. I mean, it's across this whole state that has this problem. Not that makes it any easier for you or the Yakima School District, but it is a statewide problem, and we got to figure it out. And I would submit to you that, and I'm not going to disappoint anybody here, because this is where I think we got to look at a 220-day school year, that we got to look at a year-round school. You can still have your weeks off, but not nearly as many and for not nearly as long. But we got to get down to the reality that we got to do something special for these kids over the last year and a half or 2 years, or we're going to have a group of young people that are just not going to be able to cope. And they not only not able to cope, but they will not be able to compete, which is just as bad. We got to make some drastic changes here to try and salvage these young people that I think COVID and the virtual, no matter what we tried to do, I still think it just didn't work as well as we all had hoped, but it was better than nothing. But we got a long way to catch these kids up. And I think the mental health issue is one that we absolutely have to step up and address. So thank you.
You're welcome. Representative Malstrecker.
Thank you very much, Stacy. And I'm really happy that that's your passion. And as I'm sure Reverend Davis agrees that your calling, you would call it. So I'm just really thankful and grateful that you're doing this work. Who is eligible for this health co-op program? What if you're homeschooled in your district? Obviously online would be eligible. Is it parents and families, or is it just this registered student within the district?
Actually, we haven't got that far down the line to make those specific decisions. But so right now, it's open for decision making and conversation about but we look to have our doors open to serve those who need us.
Right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
I'd like to just add to what Superintendent Locke had mentioned. So I moonlight with the Yakima County Sheriff's Office as a DCR. So every weekend for the last 2 years, I've been riding with deputies, going to various cases. And across the county, we found, and if you want the actual stats, you can talk to Courtney, I think her name is. She's a vice president over at Comprehensive. We've seen a 30% increase in mental health and substance use related issues in the county. 30%. So you talk about the funding and all that we've been talking about. Now you throw in the pandemic, and that's 30% increase in mental health and substance use has increased by 30%. So we've seen a lot of overdoses, and we're talking teenagers as well. A lot of overdoses I've seen. Suicide attempts has increased 30%. Domestic violence, as Superintendent Locke had mentioned, depression, anxiety disorders. And one thing that I'm seeing, and I only have anecdotal information on this or stats, is that there's an increase in our teenagers becoming psychotic, or what we call drug-induced psychosis, and cannabis being the culprit, right? So over time, we're finding that with long-term use, especially when they use the oils and the higher content cannabis, we're talking like 80–85% THC in these oils. And we're seeing a lot of young people that are, after a couple years of daily use, they're becoming psychotic, developing bipolar, schizophrenia type of related disorders, and trying to come to school, right, and study. So, and also fentanyl is a real big issue in our community, especially with kids. They're basically rolling the dice, right? Or it's Russian roulette for them. So if they take one pill, they can live or not live or get whatever effect that they want. So all this is going to have a long-term effect on our students. The depression, the anxiety, the substance use, and so forth. So we really do need some help in this area. I think Senator King mentioned we need and I'm paraphrasing, right? We need to help our kids so they can be successful and almost save a lot of them, right, from the current situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Representative Mossbrucker.
Thank you very much, Raymond, for your comments. Do you have the opportunity to meet with a group of those kids who are suffering and choosing different vices in order to cope? It seems like in many of the task force and commissions I'm on, it's those kids that have the answers, right? It's not legislators, it's not senators, reps, it's the kids themselves who are willing, often, if you ask them to, to share what the challenges are and what a path out. They know the answers on how to get out, and we try to pretend that we know to guide them, and really we don't understand their pain. So if you put together a group, I am more than happy to come have those discussions or do a ride along. Send me an invite for a ride along. I would love to dive into that, and I'm sure my colleagues are as well. But just in the work over the last 8 years, the answers are with the kids. And if we can hear them and actually really listen to what they're saying and the words behind what they say, I think that's where we start to heal and find solutions for them. But I would love to help you in any way I can.
Thank you. Don, you have your hand up?
Yes. I want to thank Senator King, Representative Mossbrucker, Representative Corey. I thank you, Representative Corey, talking about what you guys did for nursing and counseling. And one of my passions is counseling. I've served on the state mental health advisory board and also with the Substance Abuse Advisory Board. And what I've seen as a pastor, I can relate to what Raymond was talking about, because we have had that discussion about the potency of the marijuana, and the THC levels is higher than ever, and it's causing psychotic reactions amongst those who are using it. And there's a program at Davis High School, Representative Mossbacher, with Jerry. It's substance abuse, and it also works along close with the mental health specialists over there. And you're right. The kids, the students know what's best needed and how to reach those who are in that crisis. I just wanted to say I'm proud of Superintendent Stacy Locke in the nursing department, of all the work that they have done during this pandemic. I've seen them firsthand. I've seen how hard they work, and the shortages it can be overbearing, but they still press forward. And yes, we are not the West Side where we have access to other service providers that can partner with us. We have to be creative. And I think, when you're looking at the funding, we need to look at, when it's $800 for one counselor, and you have mental health problems, and that may be starting in elementary schools and middle schools, and we need more help for mental health providers. We can't just rely on the counselors, that's academic counselors, to do the work, because that's stressful too. But I'm looking forward to seeing how these 3 bullet points that we have is going to come out in favor of the Yakima School District, but most of all for the students and the families here in Yakima and the Yakima School District. And I thank you guys for all the hard work. And I'm looking forward to getting with you guys one-on-one and personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. To Senator King or our representatives, do you have any other questions for us or any general comments that you'd like to share?
Well, I want to, first off, let me thank you for the opportunity to be with you. I have been promoting a 220-day school year for longer than anybody wants to remember. But if we're going to get real about our education and actually educating our kids, we got to make some changes that aren't easy, that require more money. I mean, it always comes down to money. But I firmly believe that we have to. We can't keep doing what we're doing and expect to have better outcomes, no matter how hard everybody tries. So I'll just leave it at that. But I very much appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight, and we will follow up when we get back in session to see what we can do about addressing these 3 issues that you've brought to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator King. Representative Mossbacher.
Thank you very much. And I just want to again comment on how amazingly impressed I am with how much progress we've made in such a hard and trying time right now. So I think that the biliteracy and the bilingual, that's amazing to me. I had the opportunity to go out of the country pre-COVID, and they always talk about how America has one language and other kids in other countries have numerous, and they think it's so strange that we're vain enough to only have one. Actually, I think I've heard that a couple of times even. And so I'm just really grateful that you're reaching out to all these different languages. I wish I learned all of those. So I'm very grateful that you're doing that for the next generations to come. So again, just amazing work. And if there's anything we can do, I would love to do a ride along and work with the kids on solutions, because that's it's why we're here. We're here to help. And if we can help change that generations before us, then we can change the world, right? We've got to start start while they're young enough to have a different mindset and to, I love the integration of the Yakima Nation into your schools. I think that's been coming for a long, long time, and I'm glad that you're flying the flag and it's just honoring the tribes. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Corey?
Thank you. Thank you, Martha. I want to echo the sentiments of Senator King and Representative Mossbrucker. I know a lot of you personally now, and we'll continue to work through the school year. On appropriations, we're not looking at any austerity measures as far as I can tell. So working together to, right ship where we need to. I'm happy to help. And I want to thank the school board members, especially for being here, because you are all volunteers. And there's times where I think my job is thankless, and then I realize I'm not a school board member, so I've got it pretty good. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much. Superintendent Green, you have some final thoughts?
Yes, thank you, President Rice. And thank you, Senator King, Representative Mossbrucker, and Representative Corey. Thank you so much for being here and making time for us this evening. It means so much to us that you would set aside time in your schedule to listen to our concerns and to celebrate with us. And we want you to know that the work that you do does not go unnoticed. And so we are grateful for all of the work on behalf of this region and our other school districts in the area. I want to thank our board members as well, because yes, they do have a job that is very difficult. And I appreciate the leadership that I've seen in the 2 years plus that I've been here in setting a strategic plan, in having things in place that when a pandemic hit, that we had something to refer to and something to go back to make the right decisions instead of kind of spinning in the wind like we have seen in some other locations. But I know that this has been a difficult time in our history, but it has also provided many opportunities to make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak. So there's nothing like a crisis for innovation, for creativity. And I think that we've taken advantage of that in the Yakima School District. And we are actually ahead in some areas by many, many years, as opposed to what would have happened had we not been in the pandemic. But now we have to certainly return and shore up the areas that do require supports and things that were lost over the last 2 years. And knowing that you're there working on behalf of us and our citizens here in the region is something that brings great comfort. I want to thank our team here, our superintendent team, and Becky Neeson here as well with the superintendents for making time to talk with you and to share experiences. Representative Mossbrucker, I do have you down for a ride along. So I've heard you say that 2 or 3 times. We will follow up on that, and we'll extend the offer to everyone here, Senator King, and Representative Chris Corey. If you would like to join, we'll make sure that we make time for that. So in my parting words are just thank you and gratitude for your efforts and work on behalf of our area.
Senator King?
Martha, I just want to say thank you for being here tonight. I think the fact that you feel as bad as you do, that you're willing, it just shows your commitment to this Yakima School District and the kids that live in Yakima. And I'm sure you would probably be much better off if you were curled up in a bed, sucking on a throat lounge or something like that. But thank you for being here, even when you are under the weather. So we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You don't know, but I'm wearing pajama pants right now, and I have throat lozenges. So it's a lot easier to do these sorts of things via Zoom or Google Meet than it is to try to do them in person. Do I have any other board members that would wish to give some parting thoughts?
I would just like to thank all the state representatives and senator for being here, and the staff for a great job. Continue to do the great work. And Senator King, I'm with you with that 220-day year.
Raymond or Norm?
Yes, I too want to thank our senator and our representatives. Thank you so much for your time today, for all the work you've done. You've done a lot of work in education and beyond, veterans and so forth. So I just want to thank you for all that, specifically for what you do in education for our students across the state and specifically in the Yakima School District. So thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to working with you to continue as you go into the new session in January. I know it's going to be a lot of challenges, but we're here. Our superintendent is here for anything that we can be of service or provide to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raymond. Norm, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us this evening, and we'll wake up tomorrow and go back to work, and hopefully we keep doing good work in our arenas and make things better for our kids. So thanks again.
Thank you, Norm. And I would echo everyone's appreciation for you taking time out of your busy schedules to spend a little bit of time with us and hear our concerns and our issues. I know that your schedules are going to start heating up here pretty quick. And
you're a little late.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought that didn't happen until December, but we appreciate the time that you've spent with us tonight. And please know that if there's anything that we can do to help you in your work over in Olympia, if you have any questions, if you need any data from us, we, if nothing else, are data rich, and we'd be happy to provide you with whatever information that you need to get your work done over there. So please feel free to reach out and let us know what we can do to assist you as well. Okay. So I think we've reached the end of our agenda, the end of our meeting tonight. I wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend, Thanksgiving holiday, and that you have time to spend with family and loved ones. And please let us know if there's anything you need.
Same to all of you. So thank you.
Martha,
Thank you very much. I hope you feel better.
Yeah,
Thank
feel better,
you.
Martha.